Hello, my name is Victor, Salman Opeyemi Victor from Autonoma University of Madrid, Spain. Today I'll be discussing food third in the context of my country of origin, and that's Nigeria. There is a local saying or a joke, so to speak, about food third in the country, and it roughly translates to what is sold as shoe leather in Kano can be sold as meat in Lagos. Now, as usual, I'll be using food examples that are universally consumed or at least universally known, so that regardless of which part of the planet you are from, you would actually be able to relate to part or most of what I'm about to describe. To show that food fraud is possible anywhere, anytime, and by anybody, be it multinational corporations, local businesses, or even government. I'll be using those three examples in this video. If they allowed enabling environments, I would cite how food fraud had been involved in the three most commonly consumed items: water, Coca-cola, and good old bread. I'll do the video in three parts. The first part will be about bread for the purposes of grading, and the other two parts will be about Coca-Cola and water, just to put it out there. It might or might not be included for grading. Just felt I should put that out there since I'm on it anyways. So bread. Now, one of the popular food that should be of concern to all is bread. It is unarguably an important staple food across the world, and lots of Nigerians, like myself, love bread, really love bread, especially whole wheat bread, which is my favorite. And there's one local kind of bread, the fluffy, we call it agege bread in Nigeria. Now, as beloved and commonplace as bread was, so as it is unfortunately involved in various food fraud scandals. It's just that most of them are not made so public, but there was one that was actually so scandalous that it made the national dailies. Now, the usage of bromates by bakers, in this case, bakers are the actors in the production units. Uh, the usage of bromates by bakers was banned by NAFDAC, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control in Nigeria. Uh, Bromate was banned by NAFDAC in 2003, and this led to a revolution, a period where you have all bread produced having that label and tagging their product bromate free bread. Now, almost all the loaves of bread in the country for a long while, that was the tag, and people were happy. They were eating it. Like, okay, no more bromate and they consume. However, the question was asked by some people that are the loaves of bread we are eating actually free of bromate as claimed by everybody, because it was becoming so, it's like standard practices for bakers to now put it on the label. So, the University of Opeyemi conducted a study that revealed that none, yes, you heard me right, none of the sampled bromate-free bread actually was free of bromate. They all contained bromate. Now, to make matters worse, they also, in addition to that, found a certain level of lead in all the bread, and that is an harmful element. Now, all the bread are sampled anyways. Now, perhaps you're asking why would the producer insist on adding banned bromate? Now, the benefits that the producers add from using bromate to justify the reason why they misguided consumers intentionally was simply to make an economic gain. Now, bromate is used because it is a cheap nurturing agent that helps the bread to rise in the oven and get that fluffy texture that makes it good to eat. And now, the problem was that bromate is a compound that has been classified as a class 2 be carcinogen. Now, I vividly remember this period well because then my parents made it a point for us to simply stop buying or eating any type of bread. And for a while that happened. But you have to eat bread, you just have to. So after a long while, the kind of bread that was allowed in our household were bread that were from trusted brands, bread that we felt comfortably safe with, and that was the origin of how I get to stick to a brand of bread once I really get to like it. So food fraud actually has that effect. It makes you lose the trust a customer has in uh, your products. Now, to continue to eat bread without doubt, authorities needed to cut down on bakers for compliance, but of course, it was an hectic job. But the effort actually yielded a lot of results in that the industry actually upped their game and made them get better in the production process. And that is it about bread. Now, the second part of the video is where I'll be talking about water and fraud in water. Now, uh, water is one of the basic amenities that is either provided or guaranteed by any government for its people, right? Well, I wouldn't say so in the case of Nigeria. Uh, I remember one of my first trip out of Nigeria years ago. My stomach is sensitive, and it took me a while and a lot of research to actually trust government or public or tap water in Germany as being drinkable. The idea that I can take water from the tap and drink was so strange to me that I had to do a lot of verification for myself before I actually got to the point of doing that. Now, I know that might sound ridiculous to you. Now, even my trip here to Spain, research on the level of safety of tap water was one of the first things I did. Now, for context, uh, I grew up in a region where my family had to process and purify our own water by ourselves, right? And that was simply because we were privileged enough to be able to do that. Now, the masses had to rely on community water, government public tap, and so on. And that was even if, when it was available to start with. It's always available. It comes today and not available tomorrow, all that kind of thing. And the government claims that the water is good enough to be consumed to be drunk. But the problem is that whenever such water is tested, levels of impurity is always way off the mark. Even before the testing, physically seeing the nature of the water is simply not what you can trust. As at then, you simply could not trust water from the tap. So that's the background I was coming from. And it took me a while to actually go out of that to not depend on bottled water whenever I'm out of the country. And now, for me to actually trust um, water here in Madrid, was I got to the point where certified lab tests are taken every 6 months and with 99.5% portable result. And also, I got to a point where I discovered that the tests that are done for public tap water was even more stringent than for bottled water. Then, of course, I got on that as if I had a choice. So before I continue, let me reiterate what food fraud is. Bear in mind that while only some of few of the description may apply to you, most of all I'm about to describe applies to developing countries like Nigeria. Uh, Food fraud occurs when food is deliberately placed on the market for financial gain with the intention of deceiving the consumer. That's basically what everybody knows by now. And the popular types of food fraud includes adulteration, tampering, product overrun, theft, diversion, simulation, counterfeiting. It's a wide variety of activities that are not honest. And believe it or not, when it comes to developing economies that do not have enough regulatory bodies or personnel or capacity to actually keep this food fraud in check, then you have issues that you wouldn't even want to believe is possible because you wouldn't want to relate with it. Now, societies have evolved beyond issues like products being mass produced without inspection. That might sound strange to you, but it happens in developing economies. You have a situation where premises used for production are unapproved. The expiry date on products are changed. The intentional distribution of contaminated products are possible. Fraudulent health certificate or authorization documentation can be obtained and then used. And all this are still possible even in developing countries. Food fraud is not local to a region, don't get me wrong, it crosses boundary. And I'm using examples of local producers now. I will give an example of multinational later. The only saving grace is that you don't have enough people who can take on the multinationals and challenge them as to the different kind of food fraud they are also perpetrating. And one example is this Coca-Cola. We all know Coca-Cola, right? Uh, One of the food fraud related lawsuits that Coca-Cola had responded to was in 2007, and then they were accused and sued for 9 years. 9 years. So they were accused to have produced different and substandard and even harmful version of the same drink in Nigeria and other African countries when compared to the same brand of drink that is sold in UK and Europe. In instance, they produce Coke, Fanta, Sprite. The Coke, Fanta, and Sprite that was made for the European market, for the UK market, was simply different for that made for the African market. And what caused this was that in the regulatory agencies were simply more lax in Africa compared to their European or UK counterparts. Hence, recommended levels of ingredients that the UK considered to be unsafe for human consumption, right, were being used to produce or to make products for another market simply because there were either no laws or the regulatory bodies didn't do their job, they were negligent. And of course, the conclusion of the courts after the oral trial was that despite the fact that consumable products, in quotes, despite the fact that consumable products ought to be fit for human consumption, irrespective of race, color, or creed, the fact that the drink was illegal in the UK doesn't make it illegal in Nigeria simply because the regulatory body had been negligent in their duties. And because they were negligent, it simply points out the limitations and the importance of food integrity monitoring and regulatory bodies. It is comparatively easier to get away with food fraud in this part of the world than it is in Europe. Things you wouldn't even begin to imagine that are possible. You have situations where you have plastic rice being imported. You have situations where you have it's so widespread. Nigeria is a developing economy with a lot of challenges and opportunities, and being the country with the sixth largest population out of the 195 countries of the world, the regulatory body for Food and Drug Agency is called Nigeria. It's called NAFDAC, but the oversight functions that they are supposed to have can be summarily classified as overwhelming because the proportion of activities that they have to do is simply not matching with the proportion of personnel, the proportion of tasks that they are able to fulfill. So you would understand why that much population without adequate social or regulatory infrastructure is simply an opportunity for food fraudsters. On the flip side, there have actually also been dramatic sanitization of the food and drug industry in Nigeria compared to what it used to be 2 decades ago. The foundation was laid by the erstwhile Director General Dora Queen, a legend, who had to watch a sister die as a result of being given fake insulin regularly as part of her diabetes treatment. The food and drug fraud problem was so bad in Nigeria then that when International Children's Health Foundation visited Nigeria to operate on sick children, right, 4 of them died simply because of counterfeits, medical supplies, fake adrenaline, fake muscle relaxant, and so on. Things that you wouldn't even begin to fathom. Now, she cracked down, that's the Director General of NAFTA, she cracked down on the multi-million pounds counterfeiting industry and even made enemies, enemies that constantly threatened her life, her family, her staff, and almost had a successful assassination attempt on her. So that tells you the level of malice the situation was in back then. But she was able to ensure some form of regulatory framework for the food industry and the drug industry as well. And of course, it's not yet perfect, but at least it's way better than the free for all market that used to exist in the past. Thank you, and that's it.